single stream was pretty standard. So we accepted aluminum cans, plastic number 1 through 7, cardboard, steel cans, mixed paper, and newspaper. But after the partnership, we were able to begin accepting pizza boxes, paper cups and plates, paper bags, egg cartons, plastic cups, bakery and deli boxes, paper and to-go containers, and plastic produce containers. So adding all these materials, it was really, really good. The city enjoyed it, our citizens enjoyed it, and we're actually seeing a huge increase in it. Through some grant funding, we were able to launch another educational and outreach campaign and decided to roll out some magnets and some curbside stickers, as well as just a little instructional guide on where we would like everyone to place the sticker once they receive it. And in September of this year, we sent out an educational recycling package to all our recycle customers. This educational campaign showed to be a success, and the feedback that we received from our citizens was wonderful. They actually enjoyed having the magnet that they were able to stick on their refrigerator, having the sticker that goes on the containers, everything is uniformed. It looks really, really good when we're driving around the city and it's, recycle day, and all you see is this big blue curbside container with a wonderful sticker. So it really makes my heart proud. If I take it back just a little, here are images from the campaign launch at the Chattanooga Zoo. We chose the zoo because it was a popular spot in our city, and it gave us the opportunity to be face-to-face with the community, hearing what they had to say, getting their thoughts, showing them the new materials that they're able to recycle. So we were really excited. This event turned out to be huge and such a great success. Every year, our city does a parking day, which it means it basically gives the local businesses the opportunity to show what they have. This actually gave us the opportunity to not only test the knowledge of our citizens, but we also were able to hear what they had to say about the food packaging. They were very, very enthusiastic about being able to recycle their pizza boxes. I never thought it would be, that big of a thing, but they were just delighted with that. Same thing with our Starbucks, and it was just great to hear their feedback and great to just hear what they had to say about the program and everything that they're able to recycle and do. So parking day was actually really, really fun. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to Annie White with the District of Columbia.
Thank you, Lynn. So happy today to share with you some of the work at DC and our introduction of food service packaging. We're a city of 700,000 residents, and a little bit about where we are in our waste journey. We, in our fiscal year 17, we had a residential diversion rate of about 23%, and we have a goal to achieve a citywide diversion rate of 80%. In 2014, a law passed called the Sustainable Solid Waste Management Amendment Act, and that is both visionary and transformative for the district and had a number of requirements to help us achieve this 80% goal, and it led us on this journey of looking at, again, what we're accepting and requiring to be recycled. So as part of that law, it had two kind of key requirements that are important here. Of one, a mayor's list of recyclables and compostables that provides a single list of what is required to be recycled throughout the district, whether you're at in a single-family home or apartment building, at work, or at a restaurant. And that list must be reviewed every 2 years. When the composting goes into effect, then the compostable materials will also be required to be composted. And then also that materials need to be source separated at the point of discard. So to develop this list, we went about it in a pretty systematic way. It was the first time that we kind of looked at this in a good amount of time. And because it wasn't just affecting the properties at the Department of Public Works Service, but also a number of private entities, private haulers and businesses, we wanted to handle that with care. So we first used a modified version of the Recycling Partnerships Material Recovery Facility Survey for accepted materials, and we added to that list of materials by looking at the terms and tools from American Chemistry Council for plastics, as well as a number of other sources. And we were interested and knew some great work was happening around food service packaging, so we were sure to add food service packaging to the list of materials that we surveyed about. And for each material, we asked whether the facility accepted, didn't accept, or would accept but didn't want the material. And so we surveyed all of the material recovery facilities in the region, asking this information. And in reviewing that, we only considered adding materials that were accepted by the majority of facilities and only removed materials that were not accepted by the majority of the facilities. So one of the, you can see here next is the list of the materials that we added that were new to the materials collected by Department of Public Works from single-family homes, as well as to the commercial entities. And one of the kind of main additions is food service packaging to that list. So we can see here. So clean and empty, both paper and plastic food service packaging items. So from there, after coming up with the list, we went through and began to think about our outreach materials and the terminology, images, and strategy to communicate them. And again, we looked at a number of different resources from the Food Service Packaging Institute, American Chemistry Council, Recycling Partnership. We also talked to DC agencies in the community, local community, because we're really wanting to harmonize the look and feel of what's happening at schools and businesses and throughout the district. And some of those programs are managed by other agencies, so we want to be sure to get that input and buy-in as well. Next slide. And again, in deciding to add new materials, it was incredibly helpful to have the support of the Food Service Packaging Institute to know that and the guidance that they helped to provide, and that the research was in place. So we had calls with all the MRFs to explain the addition and how we came about it, as well as support in going to meet with each MRF individually to speak with them and to see if they had questions in handling the material. And then FPI also helped with our communications goals and goal setting, and how to communicate this addition and integrate it into our outreach campaign. So we then instituted a multimedia, fairly robust outreach and education campaign, and it was the first one that we'd done in about 3 years. It included ads on the Metro, as well as bus ads, a new Zero Waste DC website, launch of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts, downloadable signage that businesses could use, or individual homes, as well as mailers, and then magnets which we gave away at events. And it also included this video here, which we'll show, which is really great. One of the questions we get about food service packaging is, what about contamination? And this video is really great because it visually helps to explain this and helps residents understand how to sort. And I think that really helps to carry over, whether it's food service packaging or any other item that residents are working to recycle.
So sounds like we don't have any video or any audio to the video here, and it looks a little choppy because we're doing it through the webinar system. But we'll make sure to have a link available for you, so if you'd like to watch the video, you can. having written the script, I can tell you that that specific scene, we actually tell people, you know what, if it's too food contaminated or if you're in doubt, please throw it out, to address one of the questions about the contamination.
Sure, and it's also on our Zero Waste DC YouTube account, and we have it both in English and Spanish, and we promoted it through social media, and this was really helpful as another way to reach residents where English is not their first language. So I want to go through some of our results now in terms of communications, and then as well as our quantitative results in terms of the quality and the volume of material collected. Again, we're starting with a brand new Zero Waste DC website, as well as Facebook and Twitter accounts. So you can see here some of our results monthly, with again a peak in April and May around Earth Day, along with the launch of a kind of a What Goes Where tool, and the video also launched in April. You can see here for the video we had 142,000 views with a pretty even split between the Spanish and English versions. In addition, before we show the quantitative results, I wanted to mention some of the other operational changes that we undertook, because they, of course, helped to achieve some of our wins. Around January, we instituted optimized recycling routes and dedicated recycling crews and supervisors for each crew, as well as added to our fleet, so it meant improved equipment availability, and this also helps to improve the quality and the quantity of material that we collect. So what you can see here is from the launch of the campaign in October of 2017 through May of 2018, that we had an 11.7% increase compared to the previous year and the volume of residential recycling collected. And what's really great is that not only did the amount of material we collected increase, but the overall residue and contamination decreased by 8 percentage points from 27 to 19%. And you can see that the materials that we were targeting through our outreach campaign, more than doubled. So cups and containers increased from 1.3 to 3.4%. We had overall increases in fiber as well. Here's specifically of the materials that one would consider to be food service packaging, as well as mixed paper, which incorporates a lot of the paper food service packaging. Mixed paper increased by 10.5 percentage points, which was a significant increase, and you can pretty much increases in the materials that we were targeting across the board. So I guess in conclusion, the program really did, and the outreach campaign helped to make us better, because it reduced our residue and increased the volume of the material, and it was very well received throughout the district. It's also important to note that through this time we had no material downgrades from our material recovery facility due to the introduction of these new materials. So our next steps in promoting food service packaging is a refresh campaign where we'll be driving traffic to the website to search for food service packaging through the What Goes Where tool. And of course, this is just the beginning of our work on outreach. We have we're thrilled with the progress we made in the last year. Our goal is to further reduce our residue, decrease the volume of plastic bags, and increase participation and the quality of materials that are collected. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Annie. All right, so next up, our last speaker is Karen from Louisville. I'll let you take it away from here.
Hi, thanks, Lynn. I am going to talk to you about our similar projects that we have going with FPI, and I actually started my position in March of 2017, and this was the first major project that I did. So I've really learned a lot through this process, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit. So just a couple months in to my job, whenever I was hired, we were approached by FPI's Community Partnership Program, and they may have actually, I think, approached us earlier, but we a hold on everything till I came on board. And we met with them in May of 2017 and decided they approached us with this project with the goals of adding food service packaging to our curbside recycling programs and providing a model program for other communities. So FPI had already been in contact with our main material recovery facility that our city curbside recycling goes to, and they agreed to accept everything listed on their list except for polystyrene, or foam polystyrene, I should say. So that's unfortunate, and I hope someday we can add styrofoam to this. But they had actually already accepted everything else. They didn't have to change their facility to add this to the list and just call it out a little more specifically. So we discussed communications goals and decided on these. Supporting ongoing communication around curbside recycling programs, which for me was really great because, like I said, I was very new, and just having any kind of support on flyer designs, videos. They gave us a pop-up banner, things like that. So that was really great. And we wanted to inspire residents to engage in recycling messages. We did this through a lot of digital media campaigns, and we had one at the launch of the program, and then another one we plan to do as a refresh. We planned it for a year later. We're a little behind, but it's going to start next week. And also working with the MRF to communicate this a little bit better. And we decided to measure our communications by website traffic and social media engagements, and reaching residents through digital ads, and increasing our cart and bin requests. So you can kind of already see some of our results here, and I have a few charts later, but we did meet all of our goals and exceed most of them. So that was really great. So once we kind of decided we were going to move forward, we had to get that MOU signed, and that took a little longer than we expected. But again, I was learning about processes, and that was okay. We developed the communications plan, and we updated our website. Got a shortened URL, a new design, and a new flyer, which I'll show you that in a second. And we also planned for a press conference at the kickoff of a conference we were having here. The MWMA Summit was here in Louisville, and so we planned to have a press conference at that event. So similar to Chattanooga, we had kind of a bland website, and I've taken it upon myself to update a lot of the pages, most of them at this point, but I really felt like it needed a facelift. So we started here with the recycling page because that was where we were going to drive our traffic through those digital media ads. So, and it had to be done by October because once we did that press conference, that's kind of when we started those campaigns. And so this is our before and after. So just getting a little bit more visual is really important. And when you click on the What Can I Recycle, you get to this flyer on the right. And of course, you can see some of the similar designs from all of our cities from FPI. And so that's showing what's acceptable. And then I decided to kind of model another flyer off of that. So we've been battling our bulky item collection and what's accepted and not accepted, and people are always confused by that. So I was able to make a flyer and kind of learn a little from the graphic design that they gave us. So that was a bonus. And then in October, we had our MWMA Fall Summit here in Louisville, and at the close of the summit, we had a press conference, and there's a picture of the mayor there on the right and my director on the left. And then we had some kids from my kids' school come to help kind of make it a little bit more exciting. And all the kids got to say why they like to recycle, and the mayor talked about kind of chanting, "Don't trash your takeout, recycle it," to try to get everybody excited about it. The digital media campaign kicked off at this time. So again, you could technically place a lot of those takeout containers in the recycling already, but we were calling more attention to it. And this campaign went through December of last year. And again, we're about to do a refresh next week. And a month later in November, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is America Recycles Day. And I was still kind of new in my job and really wanted to do something to just get more public engagement about recycling. So I made this little video to just highlight the participation of recycling and say thank you to our residents. I don't know if there will be audio, but it's just music, so it doesn't matter. Again, trying to drive people to our recycling page. And let's see. So meanwhile, after this, we ended up spending our winter and spring on another project, and that was to add the Recycle Coach app for our city. And so if you're not familiar, Recycle Coach is an educational technology company, and it strives to connect residents with waste and recycling information to help them become better recyclers. I love the What Goes Where search tool. You can type in anything and see the best way to dispose of it. And then, of course, for our customers that are within the old city limits that we service, you can get alerts and reminders collection on your phones, and so that's really great. And it also allows us to set some other metrics, which was really good to be able to see what people are searching for and things like that. And so we've definitely driven more people to our website. This shows the before campaign, during the campaign, and then after the campaign. So we've had a good increase of traffic to our website, and that's been continuing. I do kind of watch that now that I've gotten more into this position and understanding analytics and all of that. So we've had a lot of success with our website. And we continue to encourage residents to replace their 18-gallon recycling bins with recycling carts. Everybody gets a free bin, but you have to, in our city, you have to purchase the cart if you want that. So we want people to do that, but of course we can't force them. But they can also request a bin if they, for some reason, don't have one or aren't recycling. So we've been watching that as well, just because we've been engaging with the city more about recycling. We're just trying to see if our requests are going up, and they are. So they've increased by 33% over the previous year period. And we've also been watching the inbound stream. This is from the MRF where our city recycling goes. So not a whole lot has changed yet, but we're continuing to monitor that. The residue has gone down a little, so that's good. And then just a slight increase on some of those categories. And then this is on the Recycle Coach. Like I said, you can see some reports of what people are searching for and different content pages that people seem to be going to a lot. And so I did a search for some of those takeout packaging, and this is how many people have actually typed this in as a search to figure out where they're supposed to put that. So pizza boxes seem to be the biggest takeout container. There's a lot of talk about pizza boxes here in Louisville on whether or not you should recycle them at all or tear off the bottom part and things like that. So that's just another way that we can monitor how the food service packaging campaign is going. So our communications goals have definitely been met. We now have, or you can see the website traffic increase by 15% for the recycling web page. And then if you look at it from the previous year, it's a 45% increase. So we've definitely reached that goal. And the social media engagements, we hadn't really used that much, if at all, before this. So it kind of helped us start a baseline, and also just kind of get people used to seeing things like this on our Public Works Facebook page. So we had a huge increase in that and more Facebook likes and people following our page. And our increase in cart and bin requests, like I had said, increased. And then we've definitely reached more than 10% of our residents through the digital ads. Let's see. We've also strengthened relationships, and this was a big thing for me being brand new to the department. We have a communications specialist for all of Public Works, so I work with him closely on the solid waste side of things, and this project actually helped us this was our first press conference together, and we've definitely started a good relationship as far as working together. And he gets kind of bogged down with a lot of different projects that aren't necessarily related to my department. So I've developed that relationship, and I can get some more things accomplished through that. And then, of course, the local MRF, having a good relationship with the staff there is important. And I know Annie had mentioned using the MRF survey from the Recycling Partnership, and I'm in the process of doing that as well, just to really figure out, the best ways to communicate what they actually can handle. And so I'm excited about continuing that. And then, again, being new, the IT department here for the city, I've had to do a lot of changes to our website, and so I've developed a relationship with some of the staff that do that. And through we have other projects where we need information about the GIS system and just kind of understanding who does what and who to go to, and making those connections is really important. So our next steps is the campaign refresh, which I've mentioned is going to start next week. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to use the video that you saw from Annie. And we are this time going to drive traffic to our Recycle Coach app and kind of call out the idea that you can search for some of those items and make sure they're recyclable. And of course, we want to continue these communications to engage our residents about recycling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. I really appreciate that. We have a lot of questions that have been coming in, and good news is we have 25 minutes left to be able to answer some of those questions. So I'm just going to get going here on some of the questions that we're getting. There were a number of questions that came in related to the end markets for food service packaging and whether or not you've had any problems selling bales that had food service packaging, and whether any of the issues in China have impacted your ability to recycle food service packaging, or paper or plastic. So I'm not sure who wants to tackle that one first, but we would like to hear from all of you if possible.
This is Annie with DC. We have not had any issues moving material. Our waste management in Elkridge, Maryland is the material recovery facility that we're using. So they have not had any issues moving material. Currently, they are having to they send their 3 through 7 plastics go to Sims in New Jersey, and they are having to pay Sims to take them. but there's no issues with moving the material and nothing on the paper side. So the paper side is going fairly well, and the plastics, nothing specific on the food service packaging side. Just lower commodity values for the 3 through 7s currently.
Okay, and Karen or Kim?
Yeah, our MRF is West Rock, and we haven't had any issues. They don't actually send anything internationally anyway, so that wasn't a direct issue as far as the China bans go. And I did email yesterday just saying that I might have a question like this, and that I asked if there had been any issues at all, and there haven't.
That's great news. Thank you.
Same here in Chattanooga. West Rock is also our MRF, and we haven't had any issues. And in Chattanooga, we actually have our MRF here in town, so we haven't had any issues with moving any material.
Okay, thank you. That's good news. So for all three of you, it's interesting because one of the questions that came in is, in today's environment, we see an awful lot of programs, whether it's at the local level or maybe discussions at the state level, for people to reduce the amount of materials that they're accepting and going, let's say, back to basics. How is it that you have been able to successfully add products to your programs? Any comments on that one?
I know from my standpoint, the staff that we work with at West Rock have never really been interested in taking anything away from the acceptable items list. They understand how hard it is to change behavior, and they're just sort of wanting to kind of wait it out if there's any issues with the markets being down, which of course there are. And like I said, for us, they didn't have to really change a whole lot about their facility to accept more. I think if they were actually already recycling those items, just maybe they weren't getting as many of them. So in our case, the addition wasn't a problem.
Same here in Chattanooga. West Rock was really, really good with whatever we needed is what they wanted to provide. And here in Chattanooga, we actually have a corrugated plant through West Rock and a paper mill here in Chattanooga. So everything here is done locally. So we really didn't have an issue with accepting new material. They were actually all for it.
That's good news. We've seen a couple of questions come in specifically about the cleanliness of food service packaging. One question was, is it actually clean enough to recycle? So my question to the three of you is, have you had any questions, concerns? Have you seen increases in the amount of food residue that you see coming in as a result of your program, accepting food service packaging?
I haven't heard any difference there from our MRF, and we focus on the word empty more than we focus on clean. The staff there at West Rock really agree they kind of are in the mindset that if the more work we put on the residents, the less recycling they may do. So we, even though clean is always better, and a lot of people still clean their items just to keep bugs and things out of their bins, but and they're inside and stuff. So but having people empty their items has been the biggest communication for us.
Kim or Annie?
Yes, this is Annie with DC. I think the numbers kind of show it that our residue rates went down overall. And, what was really great and made it really easy to make this introduction is there had been a lot of great work done beforehand to show that food residue was not, increasing through the introduction of food service packaging in a residential environment, and that the phrase, clean and empty had been, kind of tested as something that, residents, that resonated with residents. And then the video, I think, if we look at that, that's, really helpful for, food service packaging, or if it's a, to go takeout packaging, or a peanut butter jar, other types of things. we always get that question about, contamination, whether it's a laundry detergent or soap bottle or something else. And that video is helping to kind of give a visual and explanation of what do we mean by, clean and empty and how clean is clean. So it's just helping our communications for all of our packaging, whether it's an aluminum can, or a pizza box or something else.
This is Kim in Chattanooga. Same here. I mean, our biggest thing, especially when we went out and did our educational outreach programs, was pizza boxes and the grease on the pizza box. We just made sure everyone understood it's okay that the grease is on there. We just don't want your pepperoni and the cheese and if you like black olives and all that other stuff on there. So the grease was fine, and that's what they didn't understand. They didn't know that it was okay to recycle your pizza box if it had grease on it.
Thank you very much. And just for reference for folks on the phone, the topic of food residue on food service packaging was something that we had heard as being a concern with adding food service packaging. We had actually done a couple of studies in Boston and in Delaware looking at food service packaging and the amount of food residues that you find on food service packaging when you recycle it in a curbside program versus other commonly accepted food packaging items. And what you found in both of those studies was that there was no appreciable difference in the amount of food residue in both of those. However, everyone recognizes that you never want to have food on those recyclable items. And one of the nice things about introducing a new product, in this case, a food service packaging item, it gives you the opportunity to help re-engage with the residents and help educate them to, only recycle those items that are clean and empty so that they're really of value to the recyclers at the end. So, and I would say that if you're interested in more information on that, if you go to our recyclefsp.org website, there's information there. And Annie also mentioned one of the things that we did a couple of years ago was a resident survey of 1,000 residents across the country to really get a better understanding of what terminology really resonated with folks. And the results of that survey is also available on that recyclefsp.org website. So I would encourage you to take a look at that if you are interested in that. Going back to specifically recycling of plastics, in all three of your programs, what were you doing with those plastics? Were they being, in what bales were those materials going, or how were you sorting those materials? Can anybody answer that?
I don't have a whole lot of specifics on that from my end in Louisville. I do know that our facility actually bales all the plastic together and sends it to, I believe, St. Louis for further sorting from there. So I don't have a whole lot of information.
For us, it's kept domestically, and they're making a 1 bale and a 2 bale and a 3 through 7 bale, but not separating by color and the thermoforms and bottles go together for ones, for each of the 1s and 2s. And then we have a bulky rigid plastic, bale as well.
Okay. Someone did ask about recycling of foam polystyrene. That was not included in any of the programs. I can tell you that one right now. So. And then somebody else asked about glass, whether glass was introduced during this program. I will tell you, for food service packaging, your cups, takeout containers, those types of items, we don't include glass. So that was not an item that we introduced as part of this community partnership program. So
sure, and I can talk a little bit about glass if you want.
Sure.
We when we did our survey of the MRFs, the most common two items that were not wanted were plastic bags and film and glass. We did remove plastic bags and film from what we accept, which also I think helped with our relationships with the MRFs as well, because we were actively accepting that before. And glass was, the one item that was the majority of MRFs did not want, that we still do have in our, in our stream. So we're working on figuring out how to help grow the end markets for that. But that is an area that needs some more work for us.
And in Chattanooga, we don't accept glass and curbside collection. However, we do have 5 recycle centers throughout the city, and glass is accepted there.
Okay, thank you very much. So question, so let's look right now and then let's look a year ago. Any wavering support from your MRFs on accepting food service packaging, or are they still supportive of your decision to add food service packaging to your programs?
Our MRF in Louisville is still supportive. I will say we have another MRF here that does have a little bit of our curbside residential. I don't know the numbers, but it's a private hauler that with a separate facility, and I'm working on connecting with that MRF a little bit more and trying to have some consistent messaging, but it can be difficult.
We're not having any issues or requests to shift from the MRF that we're working with.
We aren't either. West Rock is really good with communicating with us, and we're good with communicating with them. So we have a really good relationship to just sit down and chat. So everything's good on our end.
You all sound very rosy on food service packaging. It's wonderful to hear. I don't want people to think that, you know, there are certainly no pitfalls, but I also think that there is such a tremendous misunderstanding in the marketplace that you can't recycle these items that I think people sometimes tend to be shocked when it does actually work successfully. So it's good to hear from at least 3 communities where things have been successful. I do have a kind of a more generic question for you. Does anyone penalize, like, for example, by not picking up a bin for residents who put non-recyclables in their cart? You know, what do you do with that, with residents who don't necessarily know the best way to recycle? Do you do anything, and has it helped? This is not food service packaging related, just kind of a general question.
This is Annie. That's kind of the next phase of what we need to look at. We you have begun to look at tagging of carts and have done some pretty small scale pilots with that related to not including plastic bags that have shown favorable results, and we're looking at what makes sense next for that. So I think messaging can work at the curb, but at this point we aren't fining residents or don't have an ongoing outreach campaign at the curb. We do have mechanisms in place for the commercial haulers servicing the multifamily buildings, restaurants, to make sure recycling contracts are in place and that source separation is happening, and there are fines, associated with that, but not for DPW service properties at this time.
Kim or Karen?
Louisville doesn't have anything like that as far as the city serviced residents. I've definitely heard other cities talk about tagging and things like that, but it's nothing we have in place.
In Chattanooga, we don't have anything in place either, but we are looking at trying to get OOPS tags and getting inspectors so that they can go out and inspect the containers, but at this time we don't have that.
Okay, thank you. There are a few questions that have come in specifically around end markets for those paper items like paper cups and paper takeout containers, and what those end markets look like, and is there actual evidence that those end markets are out there. I'll just kind of chime in here, and then if Annie or Kim or Karen want to chime in, they can do that as well. I will tell you, at least from our part, this is obviously something that we have been watching very closely, because we know that without end markets, you're not going to be able to recycle anything. And I will tell you that as of, a few months ago, there were a handful of paper mills in the U.S. and Canada that were willing to accept bales with paper food service packaging in them. As of today, there's 16 confirmed end markets in the United States and Canada for mills that are willing to accept bales with paper cups, poly-coated paper cups, and other takeout containers. And I would imagine that number is going to continue to go up as people recognize that that's valuable fiber that they have the ability to recycle it. So any other comments or from our panelists about increasing end markets specifically on the paper side?
This is Annie, and I would say right now, our food service packaging is primarily, mixed in with with mixed paper, is where it kind of is ending up in the stream, and there hasn't been any issue moving that. And what we know is that it's when you're looking at like kind of polyethylene coated paper, that it's primarily paper, and it's a lot of virgin paper that's just strong, and there's a lot of value in that, and that those sheets of polyethylene also separate fairly cleanly. So I think that there's good evidence that it can be recycled well, and that there's good work being done to around outreach and education to the mills throughout the U.S. And this was a kind of a place where we saw as DC that we could help lead you need the material to help grow those markets, to test in different places, that we could help be a part of that to make that transition. So that's all I have to say on that.
Kim or Karen?
Nope.
Okay, sounds good. A quick question, has introducing compostable food service packaging caused confusion about whether they should recycle, what can be recycled, and has it caused any contamination in the recycling stream? Do any of you have compostable packaging programs in your city, or are you just doing recycling at this point? That may be a first question.
We only do recycling in Chattanooga.
We also only do recycling in Louisville as far as residential, and that is definitely a question I get from residents a lot about what they should do with compostable products, and that's just a whole other conversation.
Annie, you want to talk about that one at all?
I guess we do not do curbside composting collection, and right now in the district we have we don't have a lot of compost facilities or enough composting processing capacity to serve the district. So we have some businesses that are using compostable ware, but it's still a smaller number, and particularly on the paper side, that those that are using a compostable coating with the paper, that can be recycled as well. I have not heard any issues on the plastic side at this time, in terms of contamination from our MRF as an issue. And it hasn't, I guess from our kind of sort results, it's not really showing up of a lot of compostable plastics getting in the recycling stream. So I think it is probably at such a low level that it's not, it hasn't risen to the surface as an issue.
And I will tell you that's certainly one of the things that FPI looks forward to, is working with communities that are interested in offering both recycling and composting as options, and how you can better educate the consumers so they understand which bin to put everything in. So hopefully we'll be coming to you with one of our next webinars talking about that specific topic. So we would love to do that. For all three of you, Annie, Kim, and Karen, where does your tracking stop? So you track, your inbound materials. Do you have a sense of, once you send those bales off to the end markets, how much of those bales are actually getting recycled, or is any of that material and still end up going into landfill? Are you tracking that at all?
We talk to our MRFs throughout the year to make sure that they're able to sell and move the material, and get a sense of their loss rates, and residue rates at the facility. And beyond that, we haven't been tracking, but so much. It's about as far as we're able to get at this point. Is just to make sure that where it goes from the MRF is being sold and processed.
Kim or Karen?
I don't really have any information about that personally, but I do feel comfortable with the relationship we have with our MRF to kind of talk to them more about it if needed, and I believe other staff might end up having those conversations more than I have.
Sounds good. Any other comments? Okay. Well, I will tell you specifically on end markets, that is one of the things that, as I mentioned, we're keenly interested in. If you go to that recyclefsp.org website under the end market section, we actually do keep a map on hand that shows all those potential end markets for bales with food service packaging in them, whether they're paper or plastic. So that would be a good resource for people as you're interested in learning more about those end markets specifically for paper and plastic food service packaging. Okay, with that, I think we've exhausted almost all of the questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. If you have additional questions, feel free to contact me, ldyer@fpi.org, and I would encourage everyone here on the phone to visit our website, that recyclefsp.org, for more information, and you'll see that we have specific sections for each types of parts of the supply chain, whether you're food service operators, communities, material recovery facilities, end markets, and composting and anaerobic digestion facilities. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank our panelists, Annie, Kim, and Karen, for speaking with us today. And again, I encourage you to reach out if you have any other questions. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.